Welcome, everybody, to episode 43 of How to Become a Sales Warrior. I'm your host, Eddie Potts. Co-host,
Mark Simpson from Sem Holdings.
You want to tell our audience why we're here?
I'm happy to tell our audience why we're here. As we've said, and as we've demonstrated this past week, we are grinders. We basically believe in showing the younger generation how to do certain things, learn from some of our mistakes, some of the challenges, and its ever-changing dynamic world. So we grind our way through, Ed. We base on your book, and here we are.
It's funny. You've implemented the word grinders into me, and I sent you a draft for a chapter to the next book.
Right.
I did a second chapter, and it had to do with grinders. So you're in the next chapter as well, because it's who we are. It's what we do. My system was shut down this weekend. Operating system conversion, major task at any company. You pull the plug on Friday, and you're hoping Monday to come over that everything is there and it's the way it's supposed to be. That's scary stuff, And it's like I couldn't work this weekend until I found a way to work. And that was what the chapter was about. I ended up getting that list from the trade show in Nashville of 338 project managers, owners, and general managers who run this rainbow restoration organization across the country. And I actually sat there one at a time. And I know there's probably someone could figure it out how to do it for me.
You grinded your way through the list.
The whole list.
There you go.
And watch during the bad Giant game. So,
what Giant? I've moved on from football.
Well, we start every Monday with a sports moment. So I know what my double is. I'm sure it's the same as yours. Sports moment of the week for us people here in Comac?
First, congratulations to Comac High School boys and girls soccer team.
State champs.
I think it's only the 13th time.
Last time was in 2013,
13th time in history that boys and girls
won state
championship.
was the last team to win it.
Yeah, so how about that? So congratulations.
I'm leaving it at that with sports moment.
Fair enough.
Who's our guest today?
Listen, our guest is Jim Manikas today, and I'll tell you, so I'm kind of excited for this guest because this is, we developed a relationship through the Comac Chamber. I'm doing all this stuff, Ed, that you kind of pushed me into this uncomfortable situation. Jim is a very well-respected realtor. Everywhere you go throughout Comac, everybody knows him, probably several parts of Long Island, quite frankly. And actually, if anybody hasn't seen his own social media stuff and clips, very smart, very witty. So very excited to have Jim as our guest today.
Excellent. So we're touching into Chapter 5. Chapter 5, you and I haven't talked a lot about it, and that's why I really wanted to bring it out. Olin Mills. Olin Mills was a yearbook company. Come into your high school, take pictures, but then they branched off and did church directories.
Right.
And they created this market that they overwhelmingly were in control of for many, many, many years. And I remember training, 3 weeks training, studying literature, and then they send me on a trip to do a ride-along. And I go on this ride-along, and it's an older woman, 20 years my senior. And she was very pushy, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And at the end of the first day, she said, okay, tomorrow, get ready. We're going to be role-playing. I said, excuse me? She goes, we're going to be role-playing. I said, role-playing what? Well, I'm going to be the pastor, and you'll be you. And I'm like, no. What do you mean, no? I'm like, I'm not doing role-playing. I says, let's go out in the real world and role-play for real. You're not ready for this. You're not ready for this. Don't let others hold you down. She was trying to hold me down because she thought she knew it all.
Right. That's not uncommon, especially in the corporate world, where you kind of have an up-and-coming rising star, and there's a level of insecurity. You see that kind of across all segments where, it might be a younger person who's basically killing it, and then you have kind of the old guard that's like, wait a sec, don't do it this way, or, job protection or whatnot. I don't know if you see that in real estate as well. But yeah, that's not uncommon. I do have something else, though, not to veer.
No, you'll have to hold.
Okay.
You'll have to hold, because if you believe in your abilities, you will never let someone hold you down.
That's a great point.
And I'll flash forward to she finally agreed to go out on the road. In the very first church we pulled into, And we walked up to the door, and she went to knock on us. Excuse me, this is my cell. Very taken aback by my New York brashness. Knocked on the door. I'm in my early 40s. Who comes to the door? A pastor in his early 40s. 15 minutes, connected, sold. The first.
Her sale or yours?
Hers.
Through you. Right.
But I did it.
Yep.
So you just can't let people hold you back.
Right, and you have to watch your ego. It's hard.
That's hard.
It's very
You know
hard.
me a little
So,
better than that.
Let me just tell you what I was going to say, though, Ed, because you bring up yearbook, right?
Yeah.
Not to get annoyed, but these yearbook, you see how much these goddamn photos are now?
Oh, God.
Jesus Christ. You know what I'm talking about? So whatever business model they did, well, kudos, man, because they got like parents like us paying $80 for a photo sit or whatever it is now. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, well, we're trying to figure out what to put in that stupid yearbook.
So great business model. I wonder if they're hiring. Yeah.
You know, if you have the ability, you know, when we were talking to the kids the other day at the high school, you know, I asked my kids in my group, what's your hobby? And I went around, pointed the finger at every single one in the room. I said, would you want to do your hobby for a living? Like, that's what you do for a career? And they had to look at their face. And they just knew that they're playing sports and they were doing this and they were doing that. And when I said, are any of you going to play sports next year? And they're like, probably not. And it's like, okay, so what's going to be your next hobby? You know, you gotta think, you know, because I've seen it from my kids, because I already have been through the college scene and back 5 times. Your drive could change, your ambition can change.
And a lot of, piggybacking off that point, the world is a completely different place. It's changing so quickly. What was today, 5 years ago, didn't exist.
Right.
If you have all these careers, honestly, a digital content creator is going to be one of the hottest careers there is. That didn't exist 10 years ago, let alone 5 years ago.
And now they're gamers.
Oh, yeah. That's a whole other thing, yeah.
All right, we're early, so we're going to take a break. We're going to come back to Tequila Time. If you don't know, Tequila Time is about old and new, the way we do things in the old and maybe a newer way that we're doing it. Both still functioning, or maybe one better than the other, but when you come back, you're going to have a toast of tequila with us.
And I hate tequila.
And he has to drink it. So we'll be back in 5. We're back, episode 43 of How to Become a Sales Warrior. I'm your host, Eddie Paz, co-host
Mark Simpson.
He's going to do the introduction.
Special guest, Jim Manikas from Realty Connect with us today. Very excited to have Jim and talk to him and just shoot the shit and see where we go with him.
Got to jump into tequila time. Salute to you being here.
Thank you for coming down.
Oh. Kills him every time. So this is totally about me. I don't normally do things like this, but this is totally about me. Old career day and the Eddie Pod's career day. Am I right or am I right?
Fantastic.
Let's give a little feedback on it.
Well, so let me say this. The fact that you have organized this whole thing at the district, what do we have, 100, 150 kids maybe?
150 kids.
Something like that. And you had professionals across, you know, ranging from my career to real estate to event planning and whatnot. I just think was a real testament. And you know, again, a lot of what we talk about on this podcast is being comfortable in uncomfortable situations. And I thank you, quite frankly, because these are things that I would never do.
Right.
And I feel like I can add value, but the fact that you just did this, you had the whole school really involved, and it's now kind of going to be a traditional annual thing. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
And I really appreciate being invited, and I'm happy to help with it.
You know, when you send 5 kids through school, and you get to know people at the school, and you know, you're a common face, and you know, you throw an idea out when you're visiting your daughter's guidance counselor, and they look at you like, "That's a really good idea. Would you spearhead something like that?" And yeah, I would. And they put me in touch with somebody else, who put me in touch with someone else who could make the decision, and we sat and they interviewed me, what my thought was, what my plan was. They said, "Let's try this," and this was back in April. And it was such a big hit, they wanted to jump in during the beginning of the school year, not wait till April.
It's a different audience when you're used to like talking with professionals, then you have a bunch of 9th graders, 10th graders, and some of the reactions and the way you got to kind of adjust on the fly is interesting.
I've done career day at my niece. My niece is a school psychologist at Robert Moses Middle School in North Babylon. So every year I do career day there. And it's so interesting to look at the kids. You know, half of them, they think it's a day off for them. But then all of a sudden, like the way I started, and I guess we'll get into this, but the way I started is, I believe the school system has kind of left guys like us behind, right? With, I don't know about you guys, but I was a C student. You know, I was a perennial C student. Yeah, I got by, you know. So I went to college and all that, but I didn't really belong there, and I didn't really belong in corporate life, and I ended up in real estate, and I guess we'll get to that. But point is, I always let them know right up front, if you are the perennial C student, you're not a dumb guy or girl. And unfortunately, and I'm not trying to knock the school system, but I do believe they kind of inadvertently led them to believe that.
If you don't go to college, you're an idiot.
Or if you don't get straight A's, you're an idiot. You know, not everybody gets straight A's, but we're pretty smart people out there in the world. You know, problem solving and getting along with people and, you know, being personable. And I try to let every kid know that there's a career out there in sales.
Great. I'm sorry, but one of the things we said is, guys, the world's different. You don't need to go to college, you know. And I told people straight out.
One kid asked me point blank, do you have to go to college to be successful? I took 2 steps back and I said, no, because I didn't go to college and I'm very successful. I said, success is what your plan is.
Right.
You could go into a trade to make over $100,000 within your 2nd year with overtime in a trade, plumbing, HVAC, carpentry. They're dying for young kids who don't want to go to college, want to maybe use their physical skills, don't want to hit the books.
I truly believe I can sit down with a kid who's eager and has the right tools. I can sit down and give them 5 books to read, and they can go into sales and succeed if they're willing.
Yeah, one of them is mine. Make sure you get mine. Make sure you get mine on your list. Got to get mine on your list.
I will.
All right, now fun time. Networking tip. Seek diversity in your network sphere. A lot of times you go to a networking event, you huddle up with your buddies.
Yeah.
Hey, what's up? Let's have some drinks. And you spend half the night with your buddies who you already know and probably already could do business with or are doing business with. And you're missing the people who are there who you've never worked with, you've never spoken to. So be diverse when you're out there at a mixer or a chamber event. Be diverse.
It's a great tip.
Yeah. So I'd say, and we're pushing this. Actually, Jim and I are on the Comac Chamber together, but we're pushing events that we network by not networking.
Right.
Don't feel the pressure to basically go hang out with your friends. This next thing we're going to do, we're going to basically, and you'll be involved too, but we're going to be kind of like the party planners. You come in, we make you feel comfortable, and we basically get you to a different place of the room that you would normally never be.
Right.
Make that woman.
Exactly.
How about you, Jim? You got a tip?
A tip for
networking tip.
Yeah, ask questions. So going back to books, the first book I would have someone read is How to Win Friends and Influence People. This book that changed my life. I wasn't a big reader. And when I got into real estate, I was in my 40s. And I said, all right, I guess I got to start reading. I got to start reading sales books. How do I, So I've never considered myself a salesman. It's interesting that the class is called, the podcast is called Sales Warrior. And still to this day, I don't consider myself a salesman.
He doesn't either. Yeah, he is.
It's, so I read, for some reason, that was the first book I chose, and it was the best book I've chosen. It's still the best book I've ever read. So, and in that book, it specifically says, when you're at parties, don't talk about yourself, ask questions. So at a networking thing, I always try to ask people questions about themselves, even if it has nothing to do with business. Where'd you grow up?
You don't want it to be about the business. You want to develop a relationship with them on a personal level. Business level will always be there, but if you have a personal level, they'll want to work with you on a personal level.
2 things I'm always very curious about, for whatever reason, I have no idea why, is where did someone grow up and what is their ethnic background? I find that interesting for whatever
We have
reason.
our go-tos.
Yeah. And,
Mine's what college did you go to? Because
Yeah.
I consider myself a mascot guru, and I consider myself the guy that 9 out of 10 I could tell you what the mascot of that school is. That's kind of one of my things. I did it with a pastor once, and my daughter asked me when we walked into the room. She said to me, "How are you going to make that connection, Dad?" I said, "I'll find something in the room." And we walked in, and my eyes went right for the degree, and it was in Virginia, and I'm like, I got to get Ralph Sampson and the Cavaliers into this conversation.
Excellent.
And my daughter's like, "Really? You're going to be able to do that?" And I said, "Yep." And we sat down, blah, blah, blah. Sure enough, I got it into the conversation. That's just my go-to.
That's great.
It makes people feel warm and fuzzy when you talk about their school. Of course.
Yep, absolutely. Talk about something they're interested in.
It's a great tip. I love it. Big win of the week. I had a really big win this week.
Did you?
Really
Let's
big
hear
win.
about it.
So I won the USGA Shinnecock event coming up in 2026. 65 container deal, right?
Wow.
It's a U.S. Golf Association biggest event. They haven't been there in about 8 years. So I won that event, but I won it over gradually, and I won it over I'm going to take this guy to lunch. We're going to chat. We're going to do things. I'm going to invite him to Tequila Tuesday as another icebreaker. Constantly staying in touch, even though it's not till next summer. He loved it so much. He put my proposal on the table, accepted it, and we booked our first container coming in next week. Next week, and this is for next year. So cool. That's not the win. He tells his buddy, who's got 2027. 2027 will be at Pebble Beach in California.
Oh, wow.
Place I've never been, number one. Number two will be double the size of Shinnecock.
Wow.
100-something containers. And I have to go out there.
Already cranking your numbers 2 years in advance.
2 years in advance.
There you go.
I mean, it's a huge win because I had the one-on-one team call. I'm a big fan. I want to see this guy. He's in California. And it was that 35 minutes of how to get to know you. Mm-hmm. Find out about your family, your kids, my kids. My dog comes running into the picture. I'm more
You're human.
Yeah. I'm not just a sales guy. I'm kind of fun. I bring up, I think I should come out and see you guys and walk through with my ops team. Oh, that's a great idea. I didn't win the business, but the door is open.
Right.
And they're interested. And all I have to do is what I just did with this part of it, and even take it a step further and be able to go out to California. I haven't been out there in a while. I told my wife, I'll have the meeting on a Friday, and we'll fly out there on Thursday and come back on Sunday. This way she only misses one day of work.
There you go.
But that was my big win.
That's a win.
Okay.
You?
All right. So as you guys mentioned, I'm not a sales guy, but we're all sales
still
people
have wins.
in our own way. So in the CFO world, October, November is big budget time. So one of the things that we did, SEM is kind of a national company. My staff is around the country. But one of the big differences when you're around the country, you do everything via Zoom or Teams. Not this go around. My team visited customers in Texas. I never really mentioned any customers or whatnot, but we were in Texas face to face. That visit doubled our revenue for 26.
Wow.
And so what is it? And again, I think we get lost with COVID and just, I'll call it laziness sometimes. But you're probably in your world too, sometimes the value of being face-to-face with a person, you can only go so far when you're on Teams or on Zoom, but when you actually get face-to-face, shake somebody's hand, that goes a long way. So that was our big win of the week.
And again, what did I say? I'm going to go see you.
Yep,
I'm coming to see you. Is my competitor going to do
right?
that?
And going back to career day, the first thing we said is, kids, how many of you guys are on a cell phone more than 10 hours a day? And even trying to get them, guys, well, that's one of the good with New York State. You can't have cell phones, but it's like, guys, pay attention. Don't be afraid to interact. Look somebody in the eye.
Right.
Jim, big win of the week.
My win was personal. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
So something happened over the weekend. I don't want to get into the details. They're not gory, but
Good.
I just don't want to get into the details. Someone disappointed me. And I have a habit of doing things I don't really feel like doing out of obligation. Personal things with friends. I have a large group of friends that I grew up with. I stay in touch with all of them. And this particular weekend, someone really disappointed me. And instead of me getting upset about it and having a disagreement or an argument, or I said, okay, we'll do it your way. But what it did was it got me out of this obligation forever without any guilt. So, I basically spent my whole Sunday doing something that I really didn't want to do. And Sundays are important to me because Sundays are really the day you kind of, I don't set an alarm clock. I get up, leisurely. And I do work Sundays most of the times, but a couple hours maybe. But I could have been doing something a lot more valuable. And I chose to do this. And the disappointment, instead of, again, being upset about it, I just said, okay, well, now I don't have to do this anymore.
Done.
This is not an obligation that I'll still be friends with the guy. I'm not cutting ties, but I don't feel the obligation to have to do this yearly thing now.
A great way to look at things.
Yeah,
I like it.
and that comes with wisdom and age.
Yeah.
If I was younger, that would have been a heated
There
argument.
would have been a lot of F-bombs
exactly.
dropped
Yeah.
on that.
Yep.
All right. Wins are one thing, smarts is another. Best business decision of the week. So you knew I went to that trade show in Nashville, and I extracted the membership list from them and did a personal one-by-one 338 email blast while I was watching the game yesterday. I might have briefed on it earlier. But doing that just planted 338 seeds.
Right.
Only need 10% of them to harvest to be worthy, and you know what I'm saying? So like the opportunity to just be able to plant all those. And now that I have them in a spreadsheet, that first one is individual. After that, it's a blast now. It's a blast. I can't do 338 every time I want to reach them.
Understood.
So it was a smart decision to go to the show, smart decision to create the list, get involved, and I'm actually working on my portal page that they're going to have in their yearly yearbook.
No surprise. I wouldn't expect anything less.
You?
All right, so again, I'll go back to being a finance guy. Every now and then I'll pretend to be. When you start a business, you probably know this too, what's the one thing you hear a lot of? No. No. Right? So in my world, I raise money, right? And raising money is a pain in the ass. And there's all types of qualifications. They put you in a box. Someone will take your left arm. Someone will charge you 88%. It's ridiculous, especially now when interest rates fluctuate here and there. But you can't get emotional. So my best business decision, biggest win, whatever you want to call it, no emotion. What's that lead to? We closed the financing on SEM last week. We're closing the financing on the South Carolina company this week. And easily, to your point, on Center Personal business, I could have gotten angry, could have blown up the deal, could have said, screw it. But instead, and it comes with experience, take a deep breath, relax. You got to roll with the punches, right? Right? Sales, 99 knock on 99 doors.
95 no's.
Right, yep. But same thing in finance, when you're raising money and to finally close the deal and realize, wow, what we've done. So we're in the process of closing 3 deals in 2 weeks, which is unusual in this world, but that's what we're doing right now.
Awesome.
That's the biggest fail in the real estate business is I see and I do it too, but I try not to do it often because I'm human also. But I see so many real estate agents bringing their own emotion to the deal. And you can never forget that you're representing a client, and that client's putting you in that position to not be emotional. They're the ones that are going to be emotional. And then and then we always try to bring it back together and say, hey, we're all trying to get to the closing table. So try to keep your emotions in check. We have to get this deal done.
Right.
But so the best business decision I made this week would be going to the ribbon cutting ceremony at Chase Bank.
Yep.
And sometimes these things, like you said earlier, right? You go to these networking things and you end up talking to your buddies. But I met I met a woman there that brought up an idea that I've had for years that she wants to implement, which is, I was like, this is something that I've actually been trying to do for like 2 years, and she wants to host it and actually be the point person for it to do it. So she's like community relations for Chase and Comac. And I said, wow, this was just for me going here for a half hour doing a ribbon cut.
Awesome.
This was a huge win.
Excellent. Where was it?
In Comac.
Right by the Home Depot?
Where the Home Depot parking lot.
I was in the parking lot.
When I was a kid growing up in Comac,
Modell's.
that used to be Modell's department store. Right?
So my wife and
my mother worked there.
My wife would go there with her 2 brothers. She'd go into the store, go over to the food, buy them each a pretzel, and say, meet back here in 30 minutes.
Yep.
and they'd go around the store and play and do.
30 minutes wasn't enough in Modell's.
Wasn't enough.
It was. And they had everything there.
And it was a place.
This is the Modell's that was at the home. But it was right.
It was.
Yeah,
It
used to be the whole thing.
Yeah.
It was the whole building, and they had you name it. They had it. It was a modern day Walmart. It was. I mean, Walmart.
All right. So we went out of order, and it's okay. I like doing things out of order. Word of the day for me, generosity, and it's something that I try to implement to the kids at Career Day, that you can have your focus on what you want to do for your career, but you also should have a focus of what you're going to do to give back. And I meant that not to guilt them, shame them, but sometimes the kids, once they pass their religion time, they get confirmed, they kind of don't have that same purpose that they did when they were going to religion. They kind of growing up, but you got to keep reminding them, not just for schoolwork, not just to get credit at class, have a purpose, give back to an organization.
It's interesting. I don't know if we mentioned names, but one of the teachers asked, she's like, when did you start giving back to the community? And I said, well, to be honest with you, and I said, when you're in your 20s and 30s, it wasn't even a thought in my mind. I was head down and I was breaking my ass. And I said, I got to a point where I could stand here in front of you guys and have the time and the ability to do that. And so I said in the last 5 years is really where I've kind of transformed where, my thought process and, being involved with the Comac Chamber, being involved with the school and whatnot, maybe having kids. But it's really been the last 5 years that I've really kind of been focused on the community, yeah.
When you get older.
I don't accept the older thing yet, but yeah.
Get older. I didn't say we were old.
Yeah.
We're getting older. I think there's a lot of people that keep their head in the sand their whole lives, and it's sad because the truth is, and this is going to sound corny, but it really is the truth. And you've learned this from social media too, because like you said, I've been posting a lot more on social media, a lot more followers, and then the negative people that come in, the negative comments, you're never going to be happy that way. Think about what happens to you when you do something nice for somebody. Your endorphins kick in. You actually physically feel better. Yep. It is you can't doubt that, right? So, in my one of a networking group that I'm in, this woman does these. I forget what it's called, Samaritan's Purse, where these boxes you fill them up with toys, and they go to underprivileged kids, and they get a Christmas present. So I gave it to my niece because I know she has two little girls, two twins, and I know my niece has the biggest heart. So I knew she'd want to teach her kids about that, So I gave her a box, and they went to the store and they filled it up with toys, and she showed them at 4 years old what it's like to give to somebody and that feeling that so going back and giving to your community is exactly that, it's something that I think you're right. It doesn't happen until you get a little bit older. When you're in 20s, you can't, you're out.
It's interesting. As we do this podcast, there's always people who say certain things. I feel like that's one of those things where giving kicks in your endorphins. That's one of those.
It's a phrase.
That's a phrase.
Endorphins.
Might steal that one. That's really good.
Try
really good.
You'll see it works.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, now that we've warmed you up,
let me tell you a true story. So Jim and I and one of our colleagues for the chamber, we were walking on Comac Road. It's hot. It's really hot, like a summer day, and we were, basically just walking in the stores, like cold calling almost. This guy is amazing. We would walk across Comac Road, and I'd say 80% of the stores we'd walk into, it didn't matter if they were hair salons, the car dealerships. There was that, place, smoke shops. Hey, Jim, how are you? and let me tell you something. It is hard to just walk in. For me, you don't know me as well, but I'm kind of a natural, extrovert. I'm an introvert. I'm an introvert. And I'm quiet. Yeah, I'm quiet. And then I have to, gear up to, do all this stuff. Jim walks in, boom. Hey, how are you? And it's just so natural. And you see how he's
their whole life.
So it's interesting because, we've had a chance to talk in a little bit, but you didn't start in real estate.
No, not only that, I was a shy kid.
Yeah.
I was a very shy kid growing up. I wouldn't say very shy, but I was inhibited. I wasn't an uninhibited kid. I was inhibited, and you can learn that. I think that comes from accomplishments. When you start to accomplish things, you start to get a little bit more confidence, and then a little less of worrying about what people think of you. But no, I didn't start in real estate. Like I said, I was a perennial C student. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I was a sports nut in high school. I played 3 sports. I thought I was great at all of them. It turns out I really wasn't that great, because when I went to college and tried out to play baseball at 2 different schools, I got cut from both schools, and I said, okay, maybe I'm not really that great of an athlete. So then I'm sitting there and I'm saying, I don't know. But the greatest thing, I would say one of the best things I ever did, and I give this advice to any kid going to college, I took an acting class, just as a goof. I took an acting class because I always loved movies and I loved acting and all that stuff. And talk about getting you out of your shell. I mean, that's the best way to do it, because the things they make you do there are just, horrifying sometimes.
I'm going to interject.
Yeah.
I have a very shy nephew. He's up at a state school. We won't say which one, but he's very shy. Didn't have a lot of friends that first semester. Decided to enroll in a acting class. And then this semester, a film class. And
Awesome.
all of a sudden, this kid's out of his shell. So you're 100% right about that.
I would recommend anybody do that.
So where'd you spend a large portion of your career before selling real estate?
So I kind of fell backwards into a job with my cousin's wife, and then she got an account at the New York Stock Exchange. Next thing you know, I'm working on the trading floor of the New York Stock Exchange. I don't know how to trade. I don't trade stock. I'm not really a finance guy. I was training brokers on they was transitioning to wireless handhelds. So we were training brokers, and it was a very aggressive environment, which was fine. I didn't mind that. Right. So I learned a lot with that. And so I ended up working for the New York Stock Exchange as an employee for 10 years. I was a director
New York Stock
for the New York Stock Exchange. They are an actual people.
And what was your role?
They're an actual company.
What was your role?
So my last role there was I was a director in the client service department. I had 114 companies I was responsible for, and basically I was the liaison between the company, the listed company, and the stock exchange. They pay a pretty heavy fee to be listed with the stock exchange, so we were there to make sure that we always told them how the stock was trading. We always told them all the benefits of being with the stock exchange, set up visits to the stock exchange if they had anniversaries, make sure that we looked at the press releases to make sure that we might have to halt the stock if some bad press was coming in. So there was a lot of different hats I wore. And then one day I showed up for work, and we listed Rosetta Stone that day, and that was my company. I was going to be representing that company. So that was always a big deal. You'd get there early in the morning, we'd go down to the trading floor, show them where it traded, have a breakfast, all of that. And then I got back to my desk, and they said, Human Resources wants to see you over immediately. I said, wow, that can't be good.
Never is.
No. And I had never been laid off from a job in my life. So I didn't really know what it was about.
You were there, when did you start there?
So I started working at the stock exchange in '96 as a consultant, but I got hired as an employee in 2000, and then I got laid off in 2009.
Okay, and so you were there for 9/11.
Oh yeah.
Were you down at Wall Street for 9/11?
It was on the trading floor when the second plane hit, and the trading floor actually shook.
Oh my goodness.
It literally shook.
So were you guys like running out?
I got out to the street. When and this is another thing that I recognize about myself, and I'm not knocking myself. It just is what it is. When I got out to the street of which is Broad Street, it's Wall Street and Broad Street. I got out to Broad Street. I never realized how close we really were to the
right there.
Center.
Yeah,
I mean, it's right there. Yeah. Paper was falling, burnt paper was falling to the ground, and my first instinct was to get as far away as possible. But I still didn't know if I had to go back to work. Like that's how weird it is, right? So we know what happened after.
So where did you decide to leave? Why did you decide to leave?
Because that was what my instincts told me. Get away from the.
No, I mean the industry.
I got laid off. So all of a sudden one day, like I said, I got called into Human Resources, and we get laid off, me and 12 others. Basically what they were doing was they took out the mid-level guys. I was a director. Right? I had a pretty important position, but I wasn't way up there. So I was a director. They took out all the mid-level people. They put the important companies up to the managing directors and the vice presidents. They put the less important companies down to like a desk that they would call in. There wouldn't be any physical visits to them.
Classic.
I used to travel. I used to go to Ohio, Virginia.
Classic cost cutting. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? I had no bitterness whatsoever. I basically remember a sense of relief because I didn't love that job. I didn't really fit good in it. I was okay at it. And I basically said, okay, now I have an opportunity to do whatever I want. I was 39 years old. I had 2 little kids. I was married at the time. My wife had started working part-time because we had kids. She had left a full-time thing. So it was all on me. And I remember a very poignant moment where I was watching TV and I was watching the Occupy Wall Street demonstrations. And I was trying to understand what their protest was. And I was watching, and I just kept hearing people say, jobs, there are no jobs, no jobs. And I come from an immigrant background. All 4 of my grandparents were immigrants. In fact, my mother's an immigrant. So my grandparents didn't come here with a job waiting for them. They came here with an opportunity waiting for them. And that's what stuck in my head. It's like, thank God we still live in a country where I had an opportunity to make money. I didn't have a job. There were no jobs in 2009. Everybody knew who was around. You were not getting a job. If you anything, you were getting paid half of what you were getting paid. Couldn't do that. So I got the real estate license thinking I would be a house flipper. That was a bad idea too because market was
going down. You got to lay out money.
Yeah, there was no money to be borrowed. Yeah. So my friend's mother told me, my friend's mother, who was a real estate agent at the time, little side note, she happens to be Anthony Volpe, the shortstop for the Yankees' grandmother.
Oh, how about that?
That's a whole
okay.
So she told me, Jimmy, this is not a good time to flip houses. So I started reading up on flipping houses and what you would need to do. And one of the things said, get a real estate license, because then if you flip the house, you can represent yourself and you can save on the commission, which I know now is probably a bad idea. But at the time I said, okay, this is a good idea. When I went and took the class, got the license, and then I said, all right, while I'm waiting for the market to turn, maybe I could sell a few houses and pay my bills. That's literally what I was saying to myself. And then I got into it because I was so reluctant, like you, to call myself a salesman. I didn't want to be, I knew a salesman as this cheesy, corny guy who would always be closing, get to the, it's not my thing. So, but in my mind, I created a picture of what I am really, not a salesman, more of a client service rep or a consultant or a real estate consultant. And I just started selling a few houses, and then I started saying, well, how about I just do this for a living? I could just sell houses.
Maybe I'm good at it.
Maybe this is good, And I liked it, and that was 15 years ago, and I've been doing it ever since.
The accidental real estate broker.
Really is.
Yeah. So I'm a numbers guy. I'm all about numbers. Mm-hmm. How many houses did you sell in 2025? So far?
I don't know.
Oh, come on.
I really don't.
You don't keep track of how many houses you sell?
I do, but I don't know. I don't know what I sell this year. I typically sell between 30 and 35 houses a year. The numbers have actually come down a little.
But the revenue has gone up.
Correct. Yeah. That is correct. So I'm making the same money.
It's kind of weird when we talk numbers, because what you just said should sound logical to me. My container count is up. My revenue is up. We didn't really raise our rates.
Yeah.
And the extra volume that I brought in caused it to go up, which is great.
Yeah. Well, the price of houses has caused us to make more money. It's based upon, your commission is based upon the sale of the home.
How are you seeing the market today versus when you first started in the space?
Steady is the word I would use today. It's steady. It's not out of control. It's not crazy. It's not dead. It's a steady market. If you are a professional that has been doing it for a while, you should have steady business
coming. Do you specialize residential or do you commercial too?
Residential, but we do have a great commercial division in our in Realty Connect.
You want to give your company a shout out?
Sure, Realty Connect USA. That's another thing that, the broker you are with is very, very important. I got into the business, I was with a different brokerage firm, and I won't mention them because I don't have anything against them, but it was the right fit for me at that moment. Right. But then after I started to become more of a professional and a listing agent, it wasn't the right fit. And I moved over to Realty Connect in 2011. I've been with them ever since because
that's a long time.
In real estate, that's a long time.
It's a very long time. People jump a lot. And the reason I am is, number one, they reinvented the real estate business by offering agents a 90%, a 90-10 split. Now everybody's kind of...
House gets 10.
Correct. Okay, got it. They get 10. Everybody said when they got into the business, that's never going to last. They're going to end up screwing their agents. They're going to end up... They gave us that word. It's always been 90-10. You'll pay us $100 a month dues, and that's it. It'll never go. And it never has. Okay. And there's no hidden fees. There's nothing. And I'm not trying to sell the company. I'm just telling you the truth.
Right.
These guys are great businessmen. They teach the agents how to do real estate. They're incredibly ethical, and it's a great fit for me.
How many offices do they have?
Well, we have Nassau and Suffolk. So Suffolk has about 15, I believe, but there's 1,000 agents through Nassau and Suffolk.
Really?
It's gotten so big that we really operate independently in Nassau and Suffolk. So we really only operate Suffolk. There's 2 brokers within Suffolk. I only operate.
So you specialize residential,
so I specialize
Long
residential,
Island, or throughout Long Island, or Suffolk, Nassau? Or?
So I look at Comac as my epicenter.
Okay.
And I branch out from there. But any real estate agent worth their salt doesn't do business in one town. Mm-hmm. That's crazy. You may say I'm the expert in that town, but you do business wherever the business takes you, especially when you work by referral.
You have a lead, that's where you work. I get calls all the time. Do you work in Kentucky? Certainly I do.
Well, the good thing about real estate is I will be honest with them up front and say, look, I don't really handle that area, but I will get you somebody that does. And then I can take a referral fee from that agent. So there's always business, and I can stay in the deal, so to speak.
So one of the things that you see now, it's competitive, right? And how, in your spot, I mean, especially talk about Comac, Dix Hills, North. I mean, it's very super hot real estate I think for the most part, pretty hot real estate. How do you compete with, you know, because you see, you know, some of the names that are out there, they're all over the place. How do you compete for deals with all of them?
With the compass, the signature, the coach.
It's the hardest thing I think about real estate is to not watch your competition. You know, they say you're supposed to really just compete with yourself. You don't compete with others. But it's so in your face that you see someone gets a listing and you're like, oh, that's my competitor just got a listing. I got to go get a listing. But you really, I try to stay focused on my database. The people that I've done business with, those are going to be the best people for me to ask for business. I've done business with them already, and I'm look. I could stand here and tell you this. You know, you can ask my clients. I don't know how else I would prove myself, but I'm an ethical guy that every client I've ever worked, I wouldn't say every, but 99% of the clients I've ever worked for will, if they were sitting right here, would say, I would recommend him to anyone.
There's enough.
You know, the reality of a salesperson is it's not really the brand, it's the person.
But you're selling it's at the end of the day, you're selling yourself.
Selling myself.
Right.
If they thought tomorrow and picked up the phone, what agency does he work for? They probably wouldn't remember.
I made a very interesting decision, and you talked about it a little bit before we started this. A very interesting decision in my life on social media. I was always very concerned about how I looked on social media, which you should be.
Absolutely.
And I kept it kind of very conservative, you know. And I don't know what caused me to do this, but I started doing these silly minute and a half videos about myself.
And they're and honestly, anyone who hasn't seen it, I got to tell you, it's really good.
And they're tongue in cheek, you know. They're just kind of making fun of the world, making fun of myself, making fun of things in the world, making fun of the younger generation.
It's like Seinfeld. It's very Seinfeld.
And that's the way my mind. So I let people into the way my mind works, which I was reluctant to do because it's personal, you know. But I said, oh, whatever, you know. It's like as you get older, you don't really care anymore.
Maybe, yeah.
So I just let people into how my mind really works, and my followers have exploded. You know, they've increased tremendously because of that, because it's more authentic. You know, and that's the way I've always gotten business, just by being decent to people, being honest with them. You know, listen, I've sat down and told people it's not time to sell. You know, don't sell your house right now. Don't, you know, wait a year, or it's not a good plan you have here. You know, so, you know.
I know we're running short. I could go on for a long time with you. What, just if you were talking to the regular crowd that we deal with in Comac and Dix Hills, Northport area, what do you see the future if someone's thinking about selling, if someone, you know, with rates and kind of all the uncertainty?
You can't try to time the market when you are a consumer. If you're an investor, you can. But as a consumer, just on the way here, I was talking to someone who was picking my brain about it, and I said, "You're not an investor. You know, stop trying to time the market," because she was trying to see how much equity she's going to gain.
So
I said, "You can't do that."
I've said that to so many people. Like, you buy when you have to buy.
That's correct.
And you buy at the interest rate
It is what it is.
And is there a path later on to lower that? At some point, maybe.
Right. Correct.
But don't rearrange your life.
It won't work.
To mortgage rates.
It won't work. I had to buy my own house 4 years ago. I'm divorced. I was living in a temporary situation. I finally was able to buy my own house. And I remember being so angry that the interest rates were like, I don't know, 3.3. And I had to pay an extra point because of the way my business is set up. I couldn't, you know. So I had to pay like 4.3. It's a great interest rate now. You know, and I was so timing the market, forget about it. When your personal situation says you need to sell or buy, that's when you do.
When I refinanced the last time, and my wife said to me, "I did the first two. This one's on you." And I went to someone I knew, and it was like pulling fucking teeth. It was the worst experience ever. I wouldn't recommend them to anybody because it was the worst experience. But he still got me 2.65, and I love him forever.
Why do you think there's no houses on the market? Everybody's sitting on a 2.65 interest rate. They don't want to sell there.
All right, we're coming to the end. We got two quick questions. Sure. Don't ponder too long with the answers. You got the first one?
So, kind of knowing your background, history, you've been Realty Connect for a while. Where do you see yourself now, where you're kind of getting to a different part in life? Where do you see yourself in 5 years from now?
Hopefully, in 5 years from now, I see myself debt-free. I see myself with a home that does not need any any updates, and I see myself still in business, and with more business coming in based upon the things that I'm doing now, I think I'm going to be at a next level.
Planting those seeds.
Yeah.
All right.
It's a great answer.
It is.
Yeah.
Last question comes from me. If you could sit down and have dinner with anyone in the history of the world, past or present, who would you like to sit down and have a meal with?
You're going to choke me up with my father because he's not here.
That's okay, man.
Yeah. Good answer. No, it's
he
a
your best
common
friend?
answer.
No, because I was too young when he died. He would have been, you know.
Gotcha. Well, thank you all for being here. Episode 43. Jim Manikas, thanks for being here, brother.
Thank you very much.
appreciate it.
Thank you. Cheers.